Hey, good morning, everyone. Today's class 9 of CAD 212 on Monday, February 21st. Today in class, we're going to review information about the midterm, talk about that a little bit. Midterm is going to be on March 9th, but I want to make sure that you have enough information before we go to Mardi Gras break that you get a chance to review that or have any questions for when we come back, because we'll do another review on March 7th. Today in class, we're going to talk about sheets again, talk about how we're going to create sheets, go over sheet numbers, which ones you're going to need to create. And then we'll go over another lesson on how to create sheets, how to import floor plans, elevations, things like that. And then also talk about use of visibility graphics a little bit more and how that's used to create sheets. And then we'll also talk about the use of dimensions as well. That's not on here, but it should be. Let me add that. Okay, cool. All right, so let's jump into midterm review information. I'm going to stop share for that. Okay, you can make some notes on this, or you can just refer back to the recording. But this is basically how your exam is going to run for your midterm exam and the final exam. I use the same format for both. You're going to be creating a drawing. I'm going to give you a floor plan, and you're going to have to recreate the floor plan and then obviously a Revit model for that. You're going to know how to create, need to know how to create exterior and interior walls per the exact specifications on that, meaning the difference between the siding, framing, the gypboard on the interiors. So basically exactly how we created the walls before, you're going to need to know how to create that. You'll be given the instructions on how to, what size siding, framing, gypboard, things like that. You're going to need to know how to create a slab, how thick the slab is going to be and what type of material. You're going to need to know how to create ceilings. You'll need to know how to do finished floors. So on top of those slabs, as we've done before, you're going to need to create 2 new materials. So you need to know how to create materials, and you will need to know how to create the finished floors on top of those slabs. For roofs, you'll need to know how to create soft fascia gutters, use the particular roof type that's given to you. You'll need to know the difference between how to make a gable and a hip roof. You'll need to know how to change the slope and the overhang. So roofs are very involved. Doors and windows, you'll need to know how to insert doors and windows. You'll need to know how to create a site, and you'll need to know how to create certain sheets. Then once you're finished with that, you'll upload the model and all your PDF sheets to Canvas, and that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much the entire breakdown of your midterm, everything you need to know on it. The only thing that's not given to you is those particular variables, which, what size floor, what size slab, things like that. So that's pretty much the midterm there in a nutshell. Any questions about that? What I would suggest you do between now and March 7th is go over all that information that I just went over with you. Make sure you feel comfortable doing that. That way, when we come back on the 7th, if you have any specific questions about anything, you can ask that on the 7th, because the midterm is the 9th. The midterm will start at 9 a.m. It will be a live midterm, and it will end at 11:30. So you have 2.5 hours to complete everything. I don't have any students that ever don't finish that. So 2.5 hours will be plenty of time, but you must be live in order to take the exam, and there are no makeups for the midterm exam. Okay, so that being said, let's jump into some other stuff today. And jump back to this. And go back to share my screen. All right, now I did get a chance to review people's work that they turned in early. So I did get a chance to review some stuff that's going to be in your Revit model progress. And we're going to go talk about that a little bit today, some of people's work. Your final project, your midterm project, well, excuse me, your final midterm project. Your midterm project is going to be in this mod right here. I haven't made that live or adjusted anything yet. And your midterm exam is going to be here as well. So everything is on Canvas. I just have to make that live when it's ready. So let's jump into some Revit files and talk about people's work so far. So this is everybody's work that I've reviewed so far. Let's just open it up and let me take a look at it and see what's going on with some of this stuff. All right. On this project that I looked at, let me just reset everything. Because like I said, what I usually do when I look at these projects is I'll automatically just go to 3D because it gives me the best view of everything. I can take a quick look around and see how it looks. This person figured out how to put downspouts on here, which is nice. So props for that. Let's go to level 1. So just from looking at this, this obviously just tells me that this is somebody has an apartment building that they lived in. They just did their apartment and then they did the rest of the building, which is great. So let's jump back to 3D. Let's see, something does look off here because this building is being intersected by these level lines. So let me go back to level 1 real quick. So if I zoom out of level 1, that's what's going on. Okay, so this building should be centered in the middle of these elevation markers. If it's not centered in the middle of those elevation markers, we're going to have some strange elevations. Like, let's take a look at this elevation. If you click on the pointed part of this elevation here, okay, that looks okay. That's good. All right, so this is where it's being intersected by that view right here. So our north view is off. All the rest of the views look okay, but our north view is off. So let's go back to level 1 and see what's going on there. That's because when we look at our north view, which is right here, it's cutting this building off right here. So we're not getting a full north view of it. So we are going to have to move the entire building. And I wonder if that's going to let us do it. Moving an entire building in Revit is not easy. What we'll do is we'll actually just move this elevation marker. Because sometimes you'll have things locked in place. There's all sorts of variables that could come into play when we're actually trying to move an entire building, so it's never recommended. So let's just move these elevation markers back. And let's see what happens when we move that north elevation back. Now we have a true north elevation view here. So if anybody was, whoever was project this was, you may have noticed that you had some issues with your north elevation, and that was just due to the fact that this building was not centered within all these elevation markers. So that should fix everything. Back to 3D view. So it's still getting intersected here, but the fact that we moved the elevation tag, elevation marker, we can now see our north view properly, which is okay. So this can work for now. All right, so let's hide a few things. All right, we've got different flooring, 1/2 inch, great. We've got paint, we've got all right, let's take a look at this wall. All right, the width of this wall is 9 inches. So remember, our exterior walls are supposed to be 5.5 inches. There should not be any gypboard on this side, on your exterior side. So we want to correct these exterior walls. So this is correct, and then we'll just change. What I would do is to correct this quickly is delete this. And then you're just going to change this to from gypboard to brick. Structurally, that's not correct, but this is how we're creating our walls for this class. And then you're going to change this to finish layer 2 because it's on the interior. So now that's correct. And when we pop back into the building, you're going to see how these walls are going to change because they went from 9 inches to 5.5 inches. Let's hit OK. It's reconfiguring a lot of stuff. All right, so didn't change too much, which is good. There's probably some measurements that are off, so you would have to go back and check that. These ceilings are set to 7 foot, so I'm not sure if that's correct per your building, but we do have ceilings here, so that looks good there. So yeah, whoever project this is, I would definitely make those adjustments in order to get that right. I see you have your soft patient gutters here. That looks good too. So definitely some things that still need to be tweaked on this project here. So since this is your only unit, you can leave that. I do like the fact that you duplicated this right here too. That looks really good, but we still need to get all this stuff that here corrected. All right, we'll go on to the next project. All right, so something looks weird on this one right off. Let me reset this. All right, so what looks strange on this is the slab is above our level 1. So we want to have this on level 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this and see what's going on. So this is offset 1 foot 6 inches up. Not sure why that is. It should be set to level 0. So let's take a look at this. Type, edit. All right, so this is created correctly. It's 18 inches thick. But on our slabs, we want to keep that at level 1 because if not, that's going to cause us some issues on the interior. Just a quick observation, this roof looks really good, whoever created this roof. Gutters are having a couple of issues right here. Let's take a look at that, and it looks like we have some fascia missing here. So we'll take a look at that as well. We'll get back to that. Let's take a look at what's going on with these floors. So let's hide this roof. Yeah, this entire floor should be set to level 0. And then you can see when you catch it at a certain angle, you've got a line right here that shows you that that's where the slab is. You can see how this slab is intersecting these doors and things like that. So yeah, we don't want that. So let's correct this. I'm going to highlight this, hide it. So you can see here's our slab. So I'm going to take this slab and I'm going to set that at level 0. So we still have our ground, but we'll take care of that later. Let's take a look on the inside of this guy. Our ceilings. Hide that. I'll worry about the floors. All right, so we have our site, but our site is still within our house. So we need to get rid of the site inside the building itself. So I'm going to turn it over, and remember, I'm going to go around the perimeter here to get rid of that. Go to Massing and Site tab. Oops. Split surface. Click on the surface that you want to split, and then I'm going to draw that perimeter around my exterior wall. I'm going to use Pick Line tool. It just works faster. All right, some of these corners I'm going to have to use my Trim Extend tool just to make sure that they're closed properly. I think this. All right, let's see if I caught them all. All right, now when the interior surface is still highlighted, still active, I can just hit delete, and that will fix all of that there. That's removed from the interior. Now let's hide this. So now we've got, I just need to do the same thing with this, what I did with the split surface, and do the same thing with this surface here as well. Okay, the ceramic floor is 1 foot 7 inches thick. So we want to change that as well and go into edit type. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry, it's offset. It's correct. It's 1/2 inch thick, but it's off foot 1 foot. It's offset 1 foot 7 inches. It should only be offset 1/2 inch. So off. Let's hit okay there. That's fine. And then we have the same thing here. So all these floors are kind of floating floors right now. So let's set that to 1/2 inch, 0.5 inches. So whoever this is, you're going to have to fix your floors because they're floating. Please come back and fix that. This is one of the things that I think is helpful for you when you turn in your work early, that I can go back through it and kind of check these things for you so they don't get marked off. And I really stress that that you do that for your midterm, especially for your final project. This is the last review before your final project, so you can catch all this stuff for you. Once again, we've got the same thing here. These finished floors need to be set to 1/2 inch. the thickness of the floor itself, so they lay on top of the other floor. Once again, you're also going to have gaps here, so you're going to have to fix these gaps as well. So you can see how this floor is intersecting this door as well. Let's hide this so you can see what's going on. So we still have a really thick floor here, an 18-inch slab here. Offset 1 foot, let's set that to 0. Let's hide this. So you can see how that floor is floating 1 foot 7 inches above it and intersecting everything. So all these floors need to be fixed. This would all be counted off. Let me just set that to 1/2 inch. All of it's easy to fix, which is the good thing. But you are going to need to get that fixed in order to get this turned in properly. And this could actually be offset 0. Because we still have, notice how it's still floating right here. So if I set this to 0, oops. No, maybe 1/4 of an inch. Quarter of an inch. And now that's what you should be looking at. Slab at 0 level goes down, finished floor on top of it. That's not intersecting any walls or anything else right there. So let's do one other person's project before we move on to today's lecture. Okay, this one. All right, just from a quick glance, this looks pretty good. Let's go to floor plan. Finished floors. Floor plan looks good. Okay, let's jump to 3D. Slabs at 0 level, 18 inches thick. Looks good. Let's check a wall real quick. All right, so this is the exterior wall, but it's only 4.5 inches thick. It should be 5.5 inches thick. So let's edit this. Interesting. Okay, let me cancel this because this is chipboard, but I'm pretty sure I clicked an exterior wall. Yep, I sure did. So let me hide this roof. Wall interior. All right, so just interior walls created. All right, so whoever project this is, you'll need to create an exterior wall because all these are interior walls that you're using here. So at this point, you're going to have to create an exterior wall because these walls would be incorrect. So remember, you're going to start with a generic wall. You're going to edit that, duplicate, rename it. And have and initials. And you're going to have to create that interior wall right there. With the correct information on it. At that time, once you create that new wall, you can take all these exterior walls that you have that are interior walls and just change them to the correct wall type. So think a little bit and it'll adjust those walls for you. So you will need to fix that. So I've got a weird slope on here. Strange. So this should be like a, and I'm not sure how you figured that out, 9, 12 slope. And this looks like a 12, 12 slope. So just slight adjustments on here. This is more of an advanced roof where you have 2 different roof types in here that's connected. I'm not sure how you connected those, but they looks pretty good. Some of the issues right here come in at this area down here where these walls roofs connect. This is a 12-inch roof. 12-inch roof. I'm not going to go into this too much because we haven't really talked about that in class. A couple of these walls need to be connected here. So little tweaks with this one as well, especially this exterior wall. So, okay, so that was a lot of stuff just to review in a lot of people's projects. So as you notice, there's a lot of things that can be caught that we need to fix, especially for when we get to our midterm, because these will be marked off. Another thing that I caught here is that these windows are inside out. Remember, these windows, if the toggles are on the inside of the house, and we need to flip those so that the windows are facing the correct way. These look like they should be correct. So yeah, all the other windows are correct, but one was inside out. So make sure that gets corrected. So what are we supposed to be new stuff? What are we supposed to be doing today? It's talking about sheets and numbers. So for our sheets, we went over this last time. You can find those in files under documents and under sheet numbers. Once again, the sheets that you're going to need to create are your G101 sheet, which we created the last class and how to create a title sheet. So we did that. You're going to need to know how to create a site plan sheet, which is an A101. We're going to have a floor plan sheet, which is an A201. We're going to have 2 sheets for building elevations. One sheet will contain your north and south elevations, and the other sheet will contain your east and west elevations. So that will be an A301 and an A302. And those are all the sheets that we'll use for the midterm project. So once again, that's a G101, an A101, an A201, and 2 elevation sheets, an A301 and an A302. So let's jump into how to create those. We'll close this. All that's found in sheets right here. And now let's go ahead and create a couple of new sheets. Let's do that. Especially when you get into the second half of the semester, when we have like much more involved projects, we're going to use visibility graphics a lot. as far as creating sheets, because we want to make sure our sheets are clean and easy to read. So let's jump to Revit again. Let's use somebody else's project here. I have this one. Okay. This one doesn't have a roof on it yet. This one just needs some catching up to do. Let's use one that's complete. All right, here's another one. This one right here, probably if you have a roof that looks like this, you want to put like a supporting column here. We'll show that at the end of this class. All right, so let's use this one for creating a, there's no site on this one, so let's use this one to create a floor plan. So here's our floor plan here. Anytime that you are going to be creating a sheet, we don't want our sheets to be using consistent color or realistic or anything like that. We always want to use hidden lines when we're creating our sheets. Sheets are always going to be in black and white unless we're doing renderings. So we want to start with something like this. Once our sheets are set, and then we also have the pattern of this floor right here. So we don't want to see any floor patterns either. And when we're creating our sheets, so in order to get rid of that floor pattern, I'm going to type in VV, which is my shortcut for visibility graphics. I'm going to scroll down to floors. There they are. And when I click on that and I hit apply, notice that floor pattern is gone. The floor itself is gone as well, but that is a patio part. So we don't really need that patio part for our actual floor plan. We want our floor plan just to be this section right here, so we can hit OK. So now we have a nice clean floor plan. That part of the exterior where there's patio here, that would be considered part of our structural work. So we don't want that to be actually part of our floor plan. We just want the walls and stuff here at this point. All right, so now that this is done and looks good, we'll go back to our sheets. And then we're going to go to sheets and we're going to right click and we're going to hit new sheet. And we're going to load, go to title blocks. And we're going to use the 11 by 17 horizontal. Once that's loaded in there, you don't need to reload it. So hit OK. And here our sheet pops up here. We went over the same information that we need to in the last class that we need to change for this part here. This is actually my floor plan. So this is going to be an A201. I do need to correct that. I'm going to go back to my floor plan level. And if I click on that, I'm going to click and hold and drag. I'm going to just drag that into place here. And this part gets a little confusing about how to adjust everything on here. So notice that there is a window around here now that shows that this drawing is active. Now I can click outside and it'll go away, so it's not active anymore. And different operations can take place whether or not that window is active. So if I want to change the size of this drawing, if I want to scale it up a little bit, I need to go back here, click in there, make that active, and then I can change my scale. If I want to go up a little bit on the scale, I can press there. Then I need to readjust the location of my building. In order to really center this building, I can use my arrows on my keyboard to really kind of place where I want it to go. So that's pretty centered right there. One thing that you'll notice is my drawing tag is located way down here, which is not good. I want it to be located under the lower left-hand side of my drawing. And I want to shorten it from this long tag that's indicated here to a shorter tag. So notice when my viewport is off, those nodes have gone, so I can't shorten it. With the viewport on, the nodes are there and I can shorten that tag. And then with the viewport off, now I can move the location of the tag. I know it's really counterintuitive. And it does confuse a lot of people, but the best way to remember it is when the drawing is on, that's when you see the nodes and you can move the length of this line. When it's off, that's when I can move the location of where the drawing tag is. So just takes a little remembering to get that taken care of. Notice when I bring in my drawing, it changes the scale. It does insert the correct scale that we have here, and it does indicate the time that the drawing was created. Here, I'll change this to floor plan. And I'm just going to add a couple of different dimensions here. I'm going to add, we're going to go over a little bit of how to do dimensions in this class, in this project. And then the second half of the semester, we're going to do a more advanced dimensioning. They're both done the same way. I just want to kind of give it to you in a little bit so you can really concentrate on getting them done correctly. All right, so this sheet is looking pretty good. One minor thing is I'm probably going to have to move the location of this drawing tag. I'm just going to draw that down a little bit. I do like this located here. If it's located off a little bit, like here, or you don't correct anything, you will get points off. The reason being that when you work in a firm, they get very particular about the location of where these drawing tags are going to go. So this would be something that you would get redlined every time if from your boss if it's not in the correct location. So this gives us enough room to throw in a few dimensions around this exterior. So let's talk about how we do dimensions next. So we're actually going to jump back to our floor plan level 1 to create our dimensions. We're going to go to Annotate tab, Dimension panel, and we actually use the aligned dimension for everything. So dimensioning for Revit is a lot nicer than dimensioning in CAD because it all comes in scaled. You don't have to change anything. Everything's organized for you. And then we just got to drop these guys in place. The main thing to remember is that you make sure that these dimensions are coming from the correct location. So you want to change that location to your exterior line here and your exterior line here. So that should be your correct exterior dimension. This is another thing that people get tripped up on, is not moving the location line of their dimensions. So we just drop those in, just make sure they're coming from those exterior wall lines. You can lock these in place with the other ones. I just want you to do your exterior dimensions, especially in more involved geometry like this one, where we have some different cut-ins. We want to have that kind of laid out there, and then we can add like this last one right here. So have that on the same lane, same plane. When we get to the more advanced dimensions, we'll be doing interior dimensions in the second half of the semester. If you want to take practice, do a little practice on that, you can do that as well. So there would just be like something that looks like this. Once again, making sure those are coming from your interior walls here. And you have those set from your interior walls. So dimensioning is a lot easier in Revit. So let's jump to our sheet. When we jump to our sheet, notice everything's kind of in place as we need it to be. So that's looking really nice. So at the bare minimum, I want you to do your dimensions on your exterior line of your floor plan. If you want to practice and get a little better at it, do your interior measurements similar to what I did here. And the main thing is you want to make sure that it's clean and easy to read. So this is one sheet that's done and completed, which is great. If I click off of that, and then I click back into that sheet, everything is still there. The next thing we want to learn is how to print a sheet in Revit. So we use print PDF to print our sheets here. So with this sheet active, it looks like this. I would fill in all this information, of course, but with the sheet that's completed, what we do is go to File, we can go to Print, and you want to make sure that you change the name of your printer to Microsoft Print PDF. There's also Adobe PDF. I'm not sure why, but I find that sometimes that the Adobe PDF does not work as well as the Microsoft Print PDF. So just use Microsoft Print PDF, or if you want to see what the difference is, you can experiment there. But I always use Microsoft Print PDF. You want to use your current window. And then you should just be able to hit OK. It's going to come up something like this, where it's going to ask you where you want to save the file and what name you want to save the file under. So this is going to be my A201 floor plan. And that's how I want you to name it. So exactly what it is. A101 site plan, A201 floor plan, G101 title sheet. And then you'll go ahead and hit save. Find that sheet, and we'll have something that looks like this, which is a pretty nice looking sheet. So you want to get something that looks to this point right here. Let's do one other sheet. Let's do an elevation sheet. So let's jump back to Revit. So we've got our floor plan created, which is great. Let's go ahead and create an elevation sheet because those are a little bit more complicated. So on sheets, we're going to right click. We're going to go to new sheet. The 11 by 17 is the same one that we're going to be using here. And when we're doing elevations, sometimes we can fit 2 elevations on one sheet. So we're going to try and do that. Sometimes it gets a little tight. Sometimes it looks too small. Sometimes it looks weird, and we'll have to change that to more sheets. But let's just try and see if we can fit both of them on one sheet, especially since this is a smaller sheet. Let's see what happens. So we're going to change this to our A301. And I'm going to use my north and south elevations on this. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click and drag and drop. So you can see that looks really weird. Let's do the same thing with our south elevations. Click, drag, and drop. So that looks terrible. I need a lot of fixing for this to make this look right. So there's a few things that we need to do on here to make this look decent. We want to have these kind of centered so they're stacked on top of one another, so it's easy to read. Things like this when they're diagonal get a little bit confusing. You want to think about how your eye moves. Your eye doesn't move like this automatically. It looks distracting. We want to make sure that these elevation lines are shorter so that they fit within our entire page. Same thing with our title blocks here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to jump to my north elevation. And I'm going to grab one of these these elevation markers, and notice how they're locked together, which means they'll move together at the same time, which is nice. I'm just going to shrink this back so it falls right there closer to the house. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one over here. And let's jump back to our sheet and see what happened there. So notice when I moved the elevation markers in my north elevation, it did the same for my south elevation, which is nice, is what it should do. So I'm just going to move this one over a little bit here. And move this one over a little bit here. And then I'm just going to use my arrows on my keyboard to kind of change that. Okay, so that looks better already. It's already looking better. Next thing I want to do is change the size of this line so it lays within the sheet itself. So I'm going to click on this, make it active. This is when I can change the size of this line. I click outside the marker. Now it's off. Now I can move the location of it, and I'm going to move it right here. And then the same thing with this. I can actually move this one even though it's long. Notice how when I get right to where it's lined up with my other elevation marker, I get that location line. We want to get those lined up so they're stacked on top of one another. I'm going to click inside this viewpoint here. Now I can shrink it and drag that back. I got that elevation line so it's the same place, same size. So yeah, that looks much better. So we're looking for something like that. Now, if I clicked on the inside of this viewport and looked over here to my view scale, I could make it larger here. But once I do that, if I make this one larger too, it may get too cluttered. I could move these just a little bit. And sometimes you want a larger, so it gets very tight, and then I just have to adjust a few things. It's not optimal, but sometimes just having a larger drawing makes things easier to read. And I need to adjust these here. So it's just a lot of fine tuning that you would need to do to make sure that this works. Sometimes you'll click too far and you'll get something that looks like this. You can just hit jump into another view. And it'll kind of freeze up. And then if you click outside of it, it'll make that work better. Let's go south. So that looks a little, it looks okay. I would actually keep this at the smaller size because there's not a lot of information that's, that we're going to add to this. You don't need to add any other dimensions to this one at this time. So either one will look fine. It looks a bit cluttered here. So I'd actually keep it at the smaller one just because there's not, but I'll leave that up to you to decide which way you want to create it. The main thing that you want to look at is make sure that it's just clean and easy to read. You know, this isn't intersecting anything, nothing's getting overlapped or anything like that. So this does look pretty good. Now, it's a matter of consideration if you wanted to keep it smaller or larger. So let's do one more print to PDF here. You're in this screen. At this point, you're going to want to go to File, Print, Print. This should still stay be set at a Microsoft Print PDF. We're just going to do the current window and we'll hit OK. And this is A301 north and south. Of course, you'd fill all that information in here as you would. We'll go back over here. And we'll open up our north and south elevations. So when you're ready to turn in your final project, you'll have all the sheets that we talked about set as a print PDF. So you'll have these PDFs to turn in along with your entire Revit file for your midterm project. And then for your midterm exam, you will need to know how to do print to PDF as well and turn in those sheets that are requested for the midterm exam and the midterm entire Revit file for the midterm also. So let's see. Remember when you're using your floor plans to turn off the floor for visibility graphics and do your exterior dimensions on your floor plan itself. You can add a little bit more dimensions just if you want to kind of play with that. And that's pretty much it for today's lecture. Are there any questions about what we went over today or any questions about what we've gone over so far this semester? I see somebody dropped something in chat. Do we need to memorize sheet numbers? Yes, it would be, it'll be good to know what they are, because what I'll do on the midterm is I'll say, create an A101, an A201, and an A301, just examples. So you'll want to know what an A301 is. So if I say A301, you'll know that that's an elevation and you won't put your floor plan on the A301. So there's not that many that we went over. Let's go ahead and just check those again so you have that. Remember, that's in sheet numbers. So G101 title sheet, A101 site plan sheet, A201 architecture floor plan or just floor plan, and your A301 or A302 building elevations. So if you had a lot of building elevations, they would obviously go numerically A301, A302, A303, and so forth. If you had like multiple floors, then you would have like A201 first floor, A202 second floor, A303 third floor, A404 mezzanine or whatever. So you would have it kind of laid out like that. So there's only these that you'll have to know for the midterm. Okay, thanks. I'll go back and take a look at that. Oh, enter the column. Let's do that real quick. Let's go to 3D. When I was talking about a column for this one right here, this way I'll just rest on this underneath and support this corner of the roof. Obviously, you're not going to have something that lays like that. This roof would just kind of like fall here. So we want to put a column here. So we're going to do a column in our level 1. Let's turn our floors back on. So now we have the place where that will rest right here. So for columns, we're going to go to Architecture tab, Build Panel, Column Tool. If we do the little drop down here, notice we have structural columns and architectural columns. Let's do the architectural columns. When we do that, if we take a look at our type selector, notice that we only have a limited number of columns available for us. We just have these sizes right here. Well, let's see if we have something nicer. Let's go into load family. Let's go to columns. So we have these different ones here. We've got a round column. Let's do something fancy like this. Let's do this one. Let's click on this one here. And the size of it is pretty big. So let's just stick it here and go to 3D and see what that looks like. So it looks a little obnoxious. So we'd actually want to change the location of this. This is probably not the best column to work on. So let's click on that column. Let's go to architecture. Let's go to column. Load family. Let's just use this one. Oh, look at the size of that. That's not what I want. All right, let's highlight this. So you want to move this so it's actually supporting it. We would actually kind of put a supporting beam in here. So that's actually supporting that. But you just want to import that column. Let me get rid of this and do something that would look normal. Delete that. All right, let me go back to level 1. Remember, architecture tab, build panel, column, tool, drop down, architectural column, go to load family. And let's just use a rectangular column. All right, there's the default in that. Sometimes you'll notice that'll happen. If you go back to reload something, it'll still be the previous tool that you reloaded. So you just have to go back to properties and type selector and select the one that you wanted. So this is an 18-inch column here. We can, if we wanted a smaller column, like a 1x1, we could do edit type. Remember, you would duplicate, you would rename, and then you could just change the depth and the width to 1 foot each. And you could change the material here. You can do all that stuff. So you can edit that. But remember, the main thing you want to do is always duplicate and rename it. So let's just drop this guy right here. Let's go to 3D. What's difficult about this is that it's a gable roof, so it doesn't look as supportive. We would definitely want to put another piece across here to support that, or there's ways that we can kind of change this up a little bit. If we grab this roof, this column, excuse me, and we do a top offset of, say, 3 inches. Notice how that just raises it a little bit. We want to raise it so it's so it supports the roof but doesn't intersect it. Remember, these type of things would be shown on a set of drawings as details, just to get it correct for our client to see the picture. We want to make sure that it's just the picture looks correct, or the rendering looks correct. So from here, I just have that set to that point. And that way, when we do a rendering, excuse me, we do a rendering from a certain angle, then that looks much better. And then we could just render that from this view, and that would look really nice. So yeah, you can just add your column like that. You can use any column that you want, and anybody can incorporate a column if need be, and just use that same kind of tool that we adjusted from there. Any other questions, y'all? All right, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and end class for today. We will have class on Wednesday. We'll just be going over some other stuff. Just going over sheets again, just to make sure that you understand that. not really adding anything new, but just making sure that everybody's comfortable with stuff. And then we're gonna add, there's one other thing I want to do before we break for the midterms. No, before we break for Mardi Gras break. All right, so that's it. Any questions, just send me a text. And if not, I will see you on Wednesday. So have a good one.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.